Welcome to Simply Sarah. I'm Sarah Stockham, and I am so pleased that you are here. And whether you are watching or you are listening, because it's both television and podcast, and whether you are able to do it live or you find the time to make it work into your schedule wherever you are around the globe, because our audience is an international audience. We're just so glad that you are here. We also want to say thank you to Glass Arts Collective for their continued amazing support of the work that we are doing. And today we're also bringing into the studio Glenda Racer McCarty. I'm so glad to have you here, Glenda. I've been looking forward to this conversation since we met. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
I'm so glad. Tell the audience a little bit about how you got to where you are today. You have your Ph.D., you're a yoga instructor, you help people who are going through trauma, you help people with technology kinds of things. You have so many different things that you do, all wrapped up in who you are. How did you get to where you are today, friend?
So that's a great question. So I do have a PhD, and it really wasn't my dream to do that. It just kind of like when opportunities present themselves, I just always jumped on them, and so that was one of those things. And then, and I worked in academia for about 10 years, but it was really during that doctoral program where I found yoga. And as a stressed out doctoral student, I had heard remarkable things about it, and I thought it would help me de-stress. And when I started it, it did. It really helped with the stress. But then I soon quickly realized how it was helping me heal previous traumas in my life. And even with like new trauma or stress that comes up, I still go right back to the mat and the yoga and meditation, mindfulness. And it keeps me healthy and active.
I love what yoga does for the body in terms of the synovial fluid, just moving all the different joints, right? And how that just keeps the body limber and ready. And for this journey that we call life. I know that I was it was during the shutdown that somebody that had grown up where I had in Congo, the DRC, we had passed each other by about a month or so as I was leaving and that she was coming. But she knew my parents knew the family. And so when my mom came to visit after my father had passed, she came to visit my mom, and I met her and just admired what she was doing, but just thought there's no way that I'll ever have time to ever do yoga. And then the shutdown happened, and she moved her practice from Peace Place in downtown Los Angeles into online. And I sat on the floor doing yoga and wouldn't turn on the camera. And about a month in, she says, if everybody would please turn their camera on, I can help you by helping you not hurt yourself. And it took another week or so before I finally turned it on. And we were, 3 days a week on the floor, 4 days in the beginning. And it has radically changed how flexible I am.
Yeah.
And I was in my, 50s before I began finding the mat and what a difference it absolutely makes. What have you noticed for people that you've worked with?
Absolutely. Just like you said, the flexibility of the mobility, and the strength. I'm stronger now in my 50s than I ever have been in my life. And so I found yoga like when I was in my late 30s, and but it has kept me full of energy and life and just movement, like my joints and mobility pieces of that, as well as just like finding time to rest and decompress. And there's times where I might just lie on the mat and do a restorative pose or just a shavasana.
Yes.
But it just rejuvenates the soul and makes you feel so much better.
And for those who are not in the yoga practice, would you share with us what savasana is?
Yeah, so that's just like the corpse pose where you lay on your mat and you can prop your legs up, or sometimes they'll put a pillow under your knees. And it's just lying there for usually a minimum of 7 to 10 minutes. And so it's just complete relaxation and focusing on your breath and no movement, no talking, and to just, I visualize myself just sinking into the mat or into the floor, like the space that I am. And I also like to practice outside, like on my patio, or, and just listen to nature sounds and just relax. So complete relaxation.
What tip would you give for somebody who has just their mind is racing. They lay there and people would think, oh, they're doing a really good job just laying there, but their mind is just really churning and going other places. What tips would you give to somebody who's in that space in order for them to be able to get more out of that 7 to 10 minutes of quiet?
Yeah, so even before that, because that takes some dedication, to lie still and like on a mat or a blanket or a floor or anything. I would just recommend like deep belly breathing. So, for example, like you're stuck in traffic or you're at the grocery store, something kind of stressful comes out, or like I even like use my own children, like something would happen. And so a lot of times people do like that really kind of surface breathing. But if you stop and really just push push your belly out. And
Mhm.
when you inhale, try to get as much air as possible into like your belly, get your ribs to expand, your chest, just fill it out like this balloon. And even in the beginning, you might have to just like mentally tell yourself to push your belly out, make it as big as you can, instead of sucking it in. And then slowly just relax and exhale. And then when I exhale, I kind of visualize that breath coming back up out of me, leaving my body. And when I do that, I just like my shoulders will start to drop and relax and my whole body. And do that deep belly breathing as much as you can. And that will kind of increase that mindfulness and just kind of help that start that relaxation state. So
Mhm.
like I've just recently gone through a life-changing event. And so I did that. Every time I would feel like a little bit of stress, I would do that, purposefully do that deep belly breathing. And I just noticed so much that my body didn't respond to the stress like it would have in the past.
Yeah, that space of oxygen is legit in terms of helping us process because it keeps our mind in the present as well. When we are working just on this chest breathing and going very, very quickly with it, it
Mhm.
allows it tells our brain that it's okay to go into fight or flight
Yep.
so much faster. And when
Yeah.
we take that moment and choose to change the rhythm of our breath, and I love how you said, just go ahead and push your belly out. Every single billboard is going to tell you how you're supposed to look. And
Suck it
I have
in.
yet to see one that's like, oh, this is a good pose, pushing my lower belly out as far as I can. And yet, when we do that, we're actually talking with our brain, we're talking with our mind, and
Yeah.
giving it the permission, the space to say, hey, we know that what's going on around us is stressful, but we don't
Hmm.
have to move into that place of the full body being stressed by it. And so we can choose to see it, acknowledge it, and then make decisions. If we're stuck in traffic, do we need to contact somebody, let them know that we're running a little bit late? And what do we need to do? What do we need to be participating in actively in order to be taking care of ourselves and our future self in that space?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When you were doing academia, what was
Hmm.
one of your favorite things about that?
About the work piece of
Mhm.
academia. So when I began, well, I'm first generation college student. So when I went to school, I always wanted to be a teacher. And that's what I did for like the first 5 years. I was a high school science teacher. But even from the beginning, when I started teaching, I was kind of drawn to like training teachers.
Mhm.
And I had that passion for that because I feel like, education is the tool that changed my life with being first generation, very low income growing up in the Missouri Ozarks. And education is a tool that anybody can use to change their life. And that's exactly
Yes.
what I did. So I always wanted to give back to that and train teachers and really change their biases and stereotypes about the students that they encounter and that come into their classroom, because this is their shot as a teacher. This is your shot to educate them and help them, give them what they need. Maybe it's a tool for this, a tool for that. So that's what I did at academia. I was the director of a teacher education program, and I absolutely loved it because, just being with young, energetic, full of excitement, young students, or all kinds of students, non-traditional students, everything, just because they were ready to impact those children in the classroom. So I loved it. I taught ethics and multicultural, just we did biases and stereotypes. And I also taught like, methods and things like that as well. And then I taught like a foundations because I was like, I wanted to get them in that first semester
Mhm.
and make sure education was right for them and tell them the pros and the cons, the good and the bad. So, so
Yes.
I absolutely loved it. But of course, I burnt myself out. I reached that breaking point because just the passion and the love and wanting to do so much, and I took on too much, which is a very valuable lesson now. I take that with me, and to evaluate things as I move forward. So not to reach burnout.
Yeah. I'm reading a book right now called Winner Peace by Ryan Christensen, and he talks about every single thing in our life. Look for the lesson in it. He has so much more to say in addition to that, but that's the piece that I'm mulling on right now, that I'm processing, is seeing all of these things where I might go, oh, I wish that I had done it a little bit differently, to go back and say, what is the lesson inside of that? What have I learned from that experience? Because I'm still here. And so I learned something in that process, whatever it happened to have been. And I love how you're saying that you had taken on too much and that you learned that lesson, that no is a valuable word. And those
absolutely. And the burnout is so severe. I mean, and now I would love to help women like not get to burnout. You realize you're stressed and exhausted, and how to help them, whether it's recovering from trauma or whatever, but like that. But because it took a couple years to recover. I mean, it takes a long time. And just the whole trying to navigate day-to-day life after burnout was extreme.
Glenda, I really hear your heart in that. And part of that is because of my experience as well. So what were some of the things that you began to do, gifting yourself that period of time, probably not knowing how long it was going to take to be able to walk through the dark tunnel, but you could see that speck of light and that you just kept walking towards it? That was my experience. Just keep walking towards the light. Glenda, what were the things that you found helpful in your day-to-day process that helped you take the steps forward?
One thing that just jumps out immediately is strong women in our circle. I had that. I had a couple very strong women that believed in me, that supported me, would check in with me. Whether we were just talking, chatting, or giving advice, it didn't matter. Just that network of support with other women that maybe were going through the same thing, or just, could experience that with you, could sit and be empathetic about it. And then another thing was that I have been an avid walker outside in nature every day. I've done it since the 1990s. I'm going to date myself. So, and, but the burnout was so severe. Like, I would drop my daughter off at her high school, and there was a park that had a mile, 1.8 mile loop. And I mean, there was times when I would walk 2, 4, 6 miles a day. I ran a few half marathons for completion. I've always been active. So when I would drop her off, I made myself go do that route, that 1.8 miles. And I couldn't even do the whole 1.8 miles in the beginning. I just, I had a cut through piece. So I would do maybe half, and then I would do a little bit more and a little bit more. And I did use an app to help me track that, just so I could see my progress from day to day, week to week, so I could get back to that. And I remember that feeling of just getting back to being able to do the whole 1.8 mile loop. So no matter what I said, I still tried to go back to those old activities that gave me enjoyment and fulfillment, which was walking and being in nature. And I made sure I literally had to make myself go do it.
Yeah.
So network, and then just reconnecting with those things that bring you joy and peace.
For me, I could remember how I felt. I could have these little tiny pictures of how I felt before burnout, before hitting the wall, before feeling like I was in a place that was really unfamiliar for me and to me, and that I didn't like. For me, that I completely concur with that struggle of one foot in front of the other, getting outside. And there were, in the past, I had walked with somebody, and that person has we're going to walk this far and it's going to be this fast and this is the pace, and I could not keep up. And so then I started to feel like something's wrong with me. And so coming to that space of saying nothing is wrong with me, I am healing. And if I had a broken foot and was learning to walk, after that process, I would be gentle with myself and take time to figure out how far I could walk in a day. And the other piece for me, Glenda, in that space was how difficult it was to drink water, to drink anything. I just found it difficult. And so, and if I drank too much, I'd feel really nauseous afterwards. And so drinking just little tiny sips through the day and reminding myself, there was a lot of reminding myself in that process that,
Right.
Moving forward is these little tiny steps. And if I can get through some of these little steps today, maybe not even all of them, it will be a day well lived because I'm moving forward and moving towards something.
Yeah. That's a good point. Even water. I know, because I had always drank so much water. After burnout, it was tough to drink water and just give yourself the nourishment that your body needed, the things that you've done in the past, and and for me, I would just like to curl up into a ball and just not get out of bed, or crawl. I always think I just want to crawl up under a rock. But right, it was just having that network and having some people checking in and making sure you're having that, and just to remind yourself daily. So
the other one point that I want to share here about my own experience was that having eye contact with people was really difficult. And so now when I see people who are having a hard time having eye contact, just having that experience, I learned so many lessons. Yes, how valuable the word no is, but also to create a different level of space for people who are either incredibly sad or in a place of depression or feeling like they are burned out or coming out of that space of burnout. I have a different level of appreciation for the space that they are in. And we relocated about a year and a half ago. And it has only been recently that I have begun to feel more like myself. Now, have I been doing things that are regular things for me to do, quiet time in the morning and those kinds of things, and getting out and gardening and, hands in the dirt, and, twigs in the hair, that kind of thing? Yes. But it's taken a while. And for me, there's a space also after I relocate and move to a new place of, this may sound odd for some people, but having a conversation with the land, feeling like I'm supposed to be in that place. The deed says I'm supposed to be here, but does the land say I'm supposed to be here, right? And so that space also of becoming friends with the land. And so that for me also, just like any friendship it takes a while to be in that space as well.
Yeah.
In your huge life changes that you've been going through, have you found that coming to a place that you have known most of your life or all of your life has been helpful?
It really has. I would be reluctant to even admit that a couple months ago, but so after after academia, we relocated to Atlanta Metro, but more recently, I've been back in the Missouri Ozarks. I'm staying with my aunt. Her health is on the decline, so it's such a privilege to be there with her, to cook for her, to give her those things, just the quality of life and improvement. But I was reluctant to go back to my hometown in the Missouri Ozarks. But I did. I grew up near Elephant Rock State Park, and it was really like my backyard. We were there all the time, climbing on rocks, jumping and swimming and playing. And so at least 3-4 times a week, I go there and I walk the paths and climb on the rocks again and jump. And even more recently, I was so pleased with myself that I was walking faster and I felt energized, and I would just sit on the granite rocks and take my shoes off and just journal, meditate, breathe. But it's been really refreshing to be back there and to really embrace the beauty of the Ozarks, because you don't always hear that about Missouri or the Ozarks. So, but to embrace it and to revisit these places of my childhood or my youth and to see the beauty and just that it's a beautiful area. So it's really good to be back in that space to continue healing and growth.
So good. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We will be right back. Glass Arts Collective is doing something so fun and amazing. Believing that all of us are creative, they are opening up their Instagram page for people who are creating things to be able to post those things there. I also believe that you are creative, and I'm super excited about this opportunity to be supporting Glass Arts Collective. They are amazing. I love Glass Arts Collective. Over my shoulder right up here is a beautiful blue cobalt box that's out of glass that came from there. And it is a place that I just appreciate the space that they create for people to come in and create new things and to try something new, to be curious. I think that word curiosity and the word compassion might become the words that I'm going to be focusing on in the next 12 months or so, because they have such deep roots of connection between the two of them. When we are curious, it opens us up to a space of different types of being compassionate. And Glenda, I know you to be an incredibly compassionate person and just fun, and somebody who loves to do yoga as the sun is rising, no matter where you happen to be. How did you get into that routine of wanting to establish doing yoga outside in the mornings when possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first started, it was just I Googled yoga and as a grad student, and I was like, I don't even have time for this. And I had two young children, so like they were like 2 and 5 years old, and so I Googled 10-minute yoga videos, and so I was like, anybody can find 10 minutes.
Yes.
And that's what I did. I just did 10 minutes. I found some people I like to follow. And then I went up to 15 or 20. And then finally, about after 3-4 years into just doing that, I entered the studio. I felt like I was ready for that. Because I think we find things when the time and the place is right. And
Yes.
so I was ready to break out and help that journey of healing with other people in that community of a yoga studio. But I love the way it makes me feel afterwards. I know like runners, get that runner's high, and they say that's what keeps them addicted, connected to it. But with yoga, it was just such relaxation and healing. And so no matter what, I create a yoga corner, and I leave my mat and my blocks and everything out by it. And sometimes it's just with my cup of coffee in the morning, I'll just go sit on it or lie on it. And it might be relatively no movement, but it's that space of doing it every single day. And some days it's gentle movement for 5, 10, 20 minutes. And some days I'm like, I want a vigorous workout or something, I want to do more movement. And so, but no matter what, I'm on it every day, and I leave that dedicated space open to it.
Our brain allows these beautiful endorphins to come and dance with us through our body when we choose movement. And that's one of the things you talk about runner's high, that space of that there really is something chemically that happens that's positive inside of us when we choose that space of movement. Glenda, do you happen to have a specific maker or type of mat that you like to use? One that doesn't move around, that doesn't stretch, that really holds to the ground well?
So the first one, when I had just some yoga mats, just whatever. But when I first bought one that I wanted to invest in, because I was like, I really want something better, I bought a Manduka, the Echo Light. I absolutely love it. I still have it, and it actually is starting to wear. That you can tell where my feet, my hands usually are. There's like little wavy, which is unusual for a Manduka because they are so good. And so then I do have the Manduka Pro now, and it's really thick and it's wonderful, and I use that. And then I also have a jade mat that I really like because it's got some grippy texture on it.
Yes.
And I travel with the jade one, but I didn't even my first Manduka Echo Light. I still have that, and I go back to that sometimes, because it's just that so familiar and it feels so good to be on it. But I say Mandukas are the best, and then I do jade as well. But
I'm writing that down. Manduka, beautiful. Yeah. The jade one, does it also have jade in it? You say it has texture, but does it also have
I don't think so. I don't think it does. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure. So it just kind of, they're kind of like little, like kind of like Ruffles potato chips. It's got like the little ridges on them. So
Yeah.
it just kind of feels nice sometimes to your hands and your feet. But
Yes.
so it
Yes.
kind of helps you grip. But it's a really nice mat as well. So
Do you ever stack your mats, or do you have just one mat that's on the floor and your Pro being a thicker one, is that sufficient?
yeah, the Manduka Pro is really thick, and cushy. I don't stack them, but I know people that do. Um, and also use maybe like some kind of like, if you're having trouble with your knees, maybe, they
Mhm.
pads you can put on your knees and stuff. But I don't stack. If I want to do more, maybe just relaxation, restorative type yoga, I might lay some blankets out on top of it, and the bolsters or pillows, and stack things that way.
Yeah. Wow. You have shared so much with us about academia and wanting to work with new teachers and the excitement of passing the baton, making sure that they are ready for what's coming at them, both the easy things, the fun things about teaching, and then also the things that are more difficult. I so appreciate that part of the journey for you. And then coming to a place that you had just taken on too much and it was time to do something different. So when you did this something different, what did you step into then professionally?
Sure. I since I'm very familiar with education, nonprofit work, I also have a master's in library science. So
Mm,
my heart is in that resources,
yes.
um, and so I tried a nonprofit. I interviewed extensively. I was trying to find that space that worked for me, and I thought nonprofits would be it. And I did try a couple of different ones, but they just weren't the right place for me.
Mhm.
And then just kind of out of the blue, just talking with some friends, I was like, I should start a yoga nonprofit, to really give back to women or individuals that who are trauma impacted communities, or just trauma impacted, and just bring that to people and agencies on what breathing, yoga, meditation how they
Mhm.
can help them, give them a tool for their journey. So
Mhm.
that's what the space I've moved into. I still do work for academia. I do like an operations, like that tech skills. It's an all online, and then the rest of
Mhm.
my time, I share yoga, develop yoga, do yoga. So,
Yes.
um, but and more recently, I developed a 6-week series with an organization in Georgia for survivors of sexual violence.
Mhm.
And it was really amazing for myself and to work with these women who had survived either childhood sexual abuse or rapes or just any kind of violence, to be in that, to create a safe space and
Mhm.
give them some tools to help them heal, to help them continue on.
Yes. In those safe spaces, in that 6-week course, what were some of the things that you can share with us that would be valuable for anybody who's looking at trauma or things that have happened in their own life, or perhaps somebody close to them, that helps people to be able to move in a way that's productive towards their future self?
One thing that helped me with trauma in my life, childhood trauma, was that when I realized that I wasn't the only person, that there were others out there just like me that experienced the same things, um, the same horrible things, horrific.
Mhm.
And so that space I created for these women, it was just that network of, yeah, we've all had things happen to us,
Mhm.
but there's hope and there's healing and there's community in that.
Yes.
And just the empowerment of seeing these women come to, who had never been on a yoga mat or anything, just to sit there, and maybe they sat the whole time, but that space was safe for them to process and feel. So the more we can feel
Mhm.
and move through it, you
Mhm.
know, that's where we can see that light. The light just continues to grow. So it's just hopeful, to experience that with other women and know that we've all had traumatic events, and how can we support one another And I just taught them basic, like that deep belly breathing and a few other breathing techniques, simple movements that you could do each day with, because with yoga, it's connecting that breath with movement. So every movement has an inhale, an exhale, and pauses, and just to be mindful on those. And then we did some journaling reflection and talked about, finding that some spaces to do that.
So good. I love how you talked about them having a mat, a space that they could sit on that was their own, that was safe. A friend of mine is an incredible shaman, and so is her husband. And they each have drums that they use when they are journeying. And so she had some friends over, and somebody picked up one of the drums, and she had this visceral internal response to somebody else. And the sound of the drum sounded so different having someone else drum on it. And that person put it down and found something else to go do. And so, but that space of having a mat that's completely yours, having a drum that you use that's completely yours, having things that are just yours that you use.
Mm-hmm.
And the safety of that, the beautiful space of the conversation, I'm speaking metaphorically here, but the conversation that we can have with these inanimate objects that help us be able to move forward in our life in ways that are incredibly powerful and good and helpful. So I so appreciate you sharing some of those pieces. Glenda, as you look at some of the things that you potentially might have felt disappointed about in ways that people showed up or didn't for you, what are some of the tools that you have used to discipline disappointments in your life?
That's a great question. One thing that I've done is, instead of focusing on the negative, is to find the positive, find the lesson, um, and make those changes within myself. And maybe it was a lesson where I had a friendship where I gave 100% and they did not. And that realization of that you're the one who's putting all that effort into it. And then when you wanted that support from them, it just wasn't there because they had never given that to you. So for me, that's a lesson to learn. The people, like those friendships that I want to include in my life, is it mutual? Am I getting what I want? Are they getting what they want? So I use those as, like we talked about previously, it's just about what lesson can I learn from that, and how can I make the changes that I want to bring me peace and joy to move myself forward. But definitely that, and then also just opportunities. Like if an opportunity presents itself, I weigh out the pros and cons of it and then decide now if that's the right thing for me. So before, in the past, I took every opportunity, and that reached burnout. So, but now, how do you be more selective, and how do you, determine those yeses and nos? And
yes. Years ago, almost 30 years ago, I was in a class and they were teaching us about financial decisions and those kinds of things. It was a multi-week class. But one of the things that I have kept from that is this idea of, if you're going to make a big purchase, that you take a piece of paper, fold it in half, and write the pros and the cons and write them all out. And then you don't purchase that day, you wait at least 24 hours before you purchase. So that was the concept that they were teaching in the class. The thing that I have so appreciated, and sometimes I actually take two different pieces of paper because my eyes keep going over to what I already wrote. And I'm like, no, I don't want to see that. I want to see just the pros, or just whatever the part is that I'm looking at that particular moment. What are the things that this decision could potentially open up to? What am I open to the possibility of in the future if I say yes to this? What am I open up to the possibility in the future if I say no to this opportunity? And then to weigh it out. And sometimes it's just the timing isn't right. It's perfect in every other way. But when you look at your schedule, you look at your calendar, you go, it's just not the perfect time for it. And then to be able to say that and to feel inside of your body what it feels like to share the honest answer of, this is great, the timing isn't right for me. And
Yeah.
then you see how it shows up back up in your life at some other opportunity, some other
Mhm.
place. Because it may, if you plant the seed that way, there's a possibility that it's going to show up again in
Yeah.
a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do that with a journal. So, because I have a lot of journals, and you were talking about like sometimes it's just that a beautiful journal or something that you want to write in, and so I'll open it up and I'll put like the
Mhm.
pros on one side and the cons on the other, and then I have it
Yes.
there. I can look at one side or the other and add to it or delete, cross it out. So,
Yeah,
yeah, some self reflection. So,
absolutely. You recently hosted, I believe, some time for some international students to come together, perhaps, and
mhm.
along with and had this traditional American Thanksgiving meal. How did you help people who had never experienced this before to understand what it is that we do and why we do the different pieces that we do of this thing that we call Thanksgiving?
Yeah, so we did. My daughter brought three international friends home for the week for Thanksgiving, and then my son and his girlfriend, and she's international as well. So one thing we did was we brought all the cultures together. So we did the traditional, like my son smoked the turkey, we made the mashed potatoes, and that traditional meal that's comfort food that I absolutely love. And then they brought a dish that they wanted to make, into the meal as well. So we had it all together. And it was so cute because like the college students were texting their moms or dads,
Yes.
grandmas to ask about the recipes and how to put it together. And they were trying to do the conversions.
Yes.
Um, and so it was, yeah. And then so that afternoon, we all toasted to something and talked about gratefulness and something like that year, what they were grateful for and in their lives, and and just talked about how that was a big part of the U.S., the American Thanksgiving, and then we all shared, and then we all shared the food and conversation, and then we had questions that I had. And so when we'd ask a question, we would take turns sharing about our lives and
Mhm.
experiences. So it was really fabulous to do that.
I so love your heart. You have this beautiful teacher heart still, right? That's in your DNA of who you are, and that you continue to find ways to have that show up in your life. I thought
Yeah.
that when I left teaching that I like it was a death sentence. And this
Yeah.
shaman that I referenced earlier about the drums, um,
Mhm.
she also does things with gene keys. And she said, let's just have a look. And I said, oh, I was born south of the equator. You can't. She says, no, we can do this. And when she looked at my gene keys, she says, Sarah, you have teacher in there twice, not once, but twice. You will always be a teacher. It's okay. You can walk
Yeah.
away from this. That was my internal
Yeah.
conversation. Then the lesson learned was I can walk away from how it looks here
Mm.
and still be who I am and actually have it open up to whole new possibilities of things.
Yeah.
And so, but I love this about you, sharing and opening up and allowing them teachable moments to teach everybody else about their own culture, and then calling other people to say, hey, I'm making the dish. I'm a little stuck here. Help out. And
It
that
would,
big connection.
yeah. That's really beautiful because, like, finding, because we are teachers, we are educators at heart, and we love to do that, both of us. And then,
Yes.
and like when I left academia, it was such an identity crisis,
Mhm.
because I had my whole identity tied up with this, teacher, with this professor, and
Mhm.
and that was my life. So part of, in addition to burnout, it was a huge identity crisis.
Yeah.
But you're right, we take those pieces with us. You had told me not too long ago is like, what, whether it was materialistic or not, what pieces do you want to take with you for
Yeah.
your next chapter, for your next life, or and I've gone back to that like almost daily these last few months, and to pick up those pieces. But that educator, right, that is in my heart, and that's something I'll always carry, whether it's with yoga or hosting international students or in friendships. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. And talking about friendships, I so appreciate how you were talking about those spaces of when you come to the point that you realize that the relationship is really one-sided, even though it can feel very fun
Mhm.
when you're together. It can feel There can be a lot of spontaneity in that space and time. It can make you laugh. It can, all those good endorphins can happen from laughing as well. That space of realizing that it's a one type of weather relationship. So if there's stormy weather, it's not going to happen, and it's not going to be reciprocal. It's not going to be that you're the one who is doing more of. And taking a space to be able to look at that and to determine what is it that you want next in your relationships as you continue to build a relationship. I do think that the majority of people, some of us do have friendships from when we were children, even if we've moved around the world. But for the majority of us, as we continue to take on new jobs, we have new clients, we have new places that we are meeting people, that we are expanding our heart and our Rolodex. Oh, there's an old word. For more friends, right? In that friend space, and to look internally with that. What are some of the characteristics that you find valuable in the relationships that you have had, that you've continued to culture? And as you're sharing this, Glenda, I'm thinking for our younger audience who's listening in, thinking about what are the qualities of people that would be good for me to be investing in. And for the people who, like both of us, who have relocated, who've gone through different things, as you relocate, the opportunities to create new friendships, what are some of the characteristics that you value from your beautiful experiences of life?
The first one is authenticity. So I want them to be authentic with who they are and share that with others. You don't think there's some kind of facade there. Maybe they're vulnerable, and honesty, and then just that openness. I want open-minded, able to see things from multiple perspectives, and then make up your mind, and maybe you change your mind, maybe you don't. But and empathetic. I want people in my life that are empathetic. So we all have struggles, we all have different things, and so to be able to sit with someone in the dark or the sunlight and hold their hand if that's what they need, but just to sit there with them.
I think one for me is somebody who's willing to change. I don't mind when somebody is stuck. All of us get stuck. And I don't mind when somebody's healing and healing hard things. And one can feel a little bit stuck in that process. Like, are we ever going to move this stone up to the top of the hill and over the other side? But I want that willingness to change, that willingness to not be stuck. That's an important one for me. Love the one that you talked about, authenticity and that openness for change. For me, that's a space also of passion. And then the curiosity of, this is where I am, but what could life be like? What am I open to? Am I open to the possibility of things up leveling? Am I open to the point that I'm willing to go through the uncomfortable feelings that I may feel? And I love that when other people are in those similar spaces, and we don't need to be in that same space at the same time. These are just characteristics that show up in regular conversations of life.
I like that too, the change of it, because life throws us things, and so we have to take them. Are we going to embrace them and make the changes, or what happens there? And that is huge. So life is always throwing some kind of punch. So
we recently had some things. I should back up. We had friends that we had made after we had relocated a year and a half ago. And we had gotten together to play dominoes and train and a couple other things, and gone out on the boat together, had just enjoyed each other's company. And they know my mom, they adore her. They are just fabulous people. And then in this organization that we were all a part of, there was some friction, there was some changes, and they were like, you know what, we need to change out of this organization into a different one. And we sat with that for a while of what does it feel like to be the ones who are left what does it feel like? And we saw them yesterday again, and it was just so good. We've seen each other multiple times because the friendship is important to us. The organizations that we're both part of are great organizations. Both of them are. And it's lovely. And I shared this with them yesterday, how lovely it is that our friendship continues on because we enjoy who they are. We enjoy the conversations. We come from very, very different backgrounds, all four of us, and just how good it is to play train together. And if you are listening in and haven't played train before, I invite you to play at least once. It's a game that someone like me can still have conversations with people and organize my dominoes. And even though I can be incredibly competitive to a fault, it gives a chance for me to take off that competitive hat and say, I'm just here for the conversation. And so it's good.
That sounds fun.
Yes. In the space of what are some things that you are looking at as you continue to grow your online offerings, as you continue to encourage people to do retreats? What are some things that you have coming up?
Sure. So we have 2 retreats coming up next year in 2025 with you, Sarah. So,
Yes.
which I'm so excited about. So in March, mid-March, we have one. They're in Tennessee, and then in November, and they're all around resting our bodies and being there with like-minded people, bonding, networking, growing, healing together. And so I'm so excited about those.
Glenda, I am too. Yes. In this space of being excited about this and learning to rest our bodies, we're also going to be talking about how we can rest our inner bodies because the two of them are connected in such a way. And so Glenda is going to be leading us with beautiful, gentle work and explaining more how if we want to go in deeper that we can and teaching us and sharing that. And I'll be doing some of the from stress to best, just giving some of the principles of when we start to feel the stress rise up, what are things that we can do that can be really helpful? And it's going to be in the Cumberland Plateau and east of Nashville, west of Knoxville. It's a beautiful area that has lots of walking trails and such a healing place, such a beautiful healing place. So looking forward to that with you, Glenda. It's going to be phenomenal.
Yep. Absolutely.
And then with your yoga work, what are you looking at growing and expanding? What are some things you were considering as we move into this beautiful year of 2025?
Yeah, so working with different organizations just to develop these programs and what they can offer to their clientele. So more domestic violence, sexual assault, any space that is looking to give their clients some tools to help them even just relax and just some tools to heal their bodies. Because for me, healing, been a journey. You know, it's astounding how like one incident or one thing, how you carry that with you, how you hold it in your body, the tension, the tightness, wherever that's located, and it's a journey of finding the right things at the right time. I always feel, and how to treat our bodies well, nourish them, love our bodies, and what they do for us. So.
Yes. Glenda, I was having a conversation with getting some information about somebody that I have known for a long time. Grew up in a household where the father had been in the military and had come back radically changed by the ravages of war. And it changed how the household was. It changed the emotions that were in the household. And just getting information, on how this person is doing, kind of taking a space for a bit of a reprieve, taking some space to work differently with some people who are incredibly professional, who know what they are doing. And so as you talk about these different things of, yes, there's sexual assault, there are different kinds of violence, but there's also the space for conversation for people who have been raised with first responders who have been radically changed by the work that they have done, and people in the military who also have been radically changed. And
Absolutely.
so if anybody is listening in around the globe, know that there are people that you can reach out to, including Glenda, who's already been doing this work, to get more information, to learn how you can move forward, because there is this beautiful thing that we call life, and it has beauty and exquisite gentleness inside of it, and it's worth finding it. Absolutely worth finding it. Glenda, are there things that you would like to reiterate before we say goodbye to our audience today?
I just want, with trauma, and there's just hope. There's healing and recovery, and where you can find that joy and peace in your life.
Yes.
I know on my journey, when I started to feel that joy, it scared me because it was so foreign. Like, what is this feeling? Is this okay? Oh, someone's going to take it away from me. But know that it's out there and you can achieve it. So,
and can someone else take it away from you, Glenda? That's such a great thing. I'd love to hear your answer on that.
Only if you allow it. So, if you allow it, I mean, because no matter, on your journey, and maybe you've overcome some things, that have happened, but you're still going to encounter maybe bad things or bad events in your life, whether it's just something maybe that you expect, a death and dying or something, or to something more radical. But it can definitely disrupt your life. Burnout did for me. I didn't ever think that was something that would happen to me. And but what are those tools that I can go back to help me continue on that journey and to recover? Recovery is faster now, or it doesn't even impact me like it would have in the past.
That's so good. Recovery is faster now, or it doesn't even impact you the same way as it would. That is so powerful, Glenda. Wow. I have loved this time with you, friend. I look forward to being with you in person at the retreat, and I'm just excited if people are interested to reach out to us to get more information about that. And Glenda, we will also be sharing your website in the notes, how people can get a hold of you on social media, and just so grateful for you being here, sharing your expertise with us. And I'm just so glad that we met, because you are somebody that I value. You are authentic. You are open to the possibility. You are curious. And you help me find my mat more often, my yoga mat. So thank you. Thank you, friend.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm so thankful we walked into that retreat together back in June.
Yes.
I think I might have crawled into it.
It was a great experience to meet in Michigan. Yes, I will always be grateful for that space and time. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I enjoyed being with you today. Thank you so much.
And to our audience, we say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to the end. We are in our 6th season of Simply Sarah, and I am just so excited about the different people that we have lined up for this particular season. Each person has a life story where they are going to be sharing their tools, how they have disciplined their disappointments, how they have worked through things, and how they have gotten to the place that they are in today. I am so excited that you are here listening for these tools, taking them, applying them, allowing them to fully embrace who you are, and allowing you to be your absolute authentic self. And so until next time, friend, have an incredible one. We will see you then.